Yes, Terry. Here we go. It is the P.M.P. after the Cup Final. We don't normally go on this quick after the game, but I know you're a busy man, mate, so I appreciate you giving us a bit of time. Hopefully we'll get Pam on as well. I think there was a bit of miscommunication in the group chat. Wouldn't be like us as to what time the show was starting, so hopefully Pam will be able to join us in 5-10 minutes or something like that. Fucking hell, mate. You seem very zen. I was put through the ringer very quick, all that good stuff, like share, like there, all that carry on, who cares? Cup final day, Celtic have won the double in Brendan Rodgers' return season at the club. It's not felt like it was going to be a double winning campaign. I remember the double used to be a massive deal. We've been spoiled to trebles of late, but in terms of significance, I think this double we'll be able to reflect on as time goes by has been absolutely monumental. How are you feeling, big man? Because you're freaking me out how relatively calm you are.
I'm over the moon, Bhoycie. I suppose I was saying to you just before we come on quickly, and I know we're competing with the celebrations here, and I've got a lot of things I need to go. My young lads, their football awards are starting at 6 o'clock, and then that finishes at 9, and then I've got to drive to Dublin after that. So I've 130 miles to drive from 9 o'clock tonight. So that's why we're on early. No, I'm actually really calm, and I don't really engage in the chat during the match. I like to sit and focus on the game. But I seen what was going on. I seen there was quite a bit of dissent within the ranks, and what you need to remember with these games, these cup finals, there's one objective, and that is to lift the cup. You know, nothing else matters. And yes, you want your team to go out there. You want them to dominate the game. You want them to play the swashbuckling stuff. You want them to go and score loads of goals. But very, very rarely does that happen in cup finals. Cup finals are usually tight, cagey affairs, and the better team doesn't always win. Look at the Europa League final the other night. Bayer Leverkusen, unbeaten all season domestically. Very heavy favourites to win that game. Got turned over. Manchester City, vast difference between the talent in their squad and the talent of the current Man United squad. Man United go and get the job done. Celtic have won the cup. They've beaten their biggest rivals. And I think it's maybe I can't imagine very many people will want to watch the game back. But if you did, there was very little threat from Rangers. Now, there wasn't an awful lot of threat from us, but I just felt that we were in control. I felt from the start there was one team that were trying to win a cup, and there was one team that was trying to stay in the cup. And Rangers were the ones that were trying to stay in the cup. And I felt we were comfortable. I felt like it was controlled. Yes, we weren't creating lots and lots of chances, but I do still think that we were the team with the mentality that we were trying to make things happen, whereas they were trying to hang in. Yes, they maybe had a little 20-minute period during the second half where they started to get a bit of belief because of the fact that they were still in it. But, you know, I was confident that something would just drop for us, something would happen, and it was two of the substitutes that were involved in the moment that got us the winner, and we've won the cup, and, you know, nobody will care what the performance was like.
Terry, it feels like you are contrasting your sort of views the other week when it was title. The day we clinched the title, you seem to be more given the bigger perspective sort of vibe. But today it's a ruthless winner's mentality I'm getting off you. And by the way, I get it. I was, very much of the opinion. I was speaking to mates last night, and I said, I know there's an overriding feeling that they might be due a doing and things, but that's icing on the cake for me. I went, as long as we win, it's all about winning. And I take your point. They never really caused us much sort of worrying moments in terms of opportunities created that were clear cut. I know there was the disallowed goal, but on reflection, that was absolutely justified. That aside, I didn't think Celtic created that much either. I felt we were a bit pedestrian, albeit possession-based football is what Rodgers is always going to be about. I think the players at times were very ponderous on it. And had we lost today, I generally think there would have been a lot more we could have picked away at. Do you know what I mean? Today's not the day for that, though. It's about winning. It's about getting over the line. It's about having a mentality. And it was, again, about dictating again what happens next. And I felt that was so important leading up to the final, that you win the league, you rubber stamp your dominance with a cup final win over your rivals, because you don't give an inch. You start ushering in a new era of domestic dominance. You start doing that by as I say, rubber stamp, if you want a better term, that dominance by then compounding the league title win with a cup, and it's against your arch rivals in it. Could it have been more comfortable for us? I'd hoped so. I had hoped so. But this is football, and I was trying to say this the other night on Thursday. I was going, I think we've all learnt lessons this season about how it's not always going to be plain sailing. It's not always going to be, swashbuckling Celtic miles in front every year in the league title race. And I think you're right when you look at a cup final in terms of a one-off game sort of thing. It's not always going to be the better team just wins by a country mile because they're better. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be ups and downs in these games. And again, I think today probably epitomised this season, Terry. We got over the line without being brilliant, whilst being a wee bit nervy, whilst having worries, whilst having doubts, but we still got the job done. And I think, as I say, I think this season has been a massive learning curve for probably a lot of the younger generation than us. We were probably conditioned to be nervous wrecks, Terry, from the get-go. Do you know what I mean? Especially myself, when I started supporting Celtic in the 90s. I mean, primary school was hell. Do you know? It's just hell. And I think having that, it gives you a more grounded sort of approach. And maybe, to be fair to our younger sort of fans, this season's been a good learning curve, whilst also still laced with the success that we're accustomed to.
I genuinely don't think we were as bad as it maybe feels like. And I think it was just one of those games where it was cagey, and it was cagey.
It was a shit game, Terry.
Cagey because it was a final, and Rangers had a kind of the makeshift centre back partnership, but they also effectively they had three number sixes on the pitch as well. They had Diamande, Raskin, and I know Sterling wasn't playing as a number six, but the three sort of defensive minded midfielders. So their stall was. They were going to be hard. It was going to be hard to create chances against them. But I definitely thought we still had the attacking mentality, and we were the team that was taking it to them. We were the team that was trying to make it happen. And I know I've already mentioned the English game once, and I obviously didn't see any of that English game, but on all known evidence going into that game.
Terry's been watching the FA Cup final, guys. That's why he's so optimistic, because he's not actually been watching the Celtic Rangers game. That's why he's so buzzing.
No, but you'd have been expecting Man City to win that game very, very comfortably, and that hasn't played out. And I think the thing was as well, Bhoycie, is that what we've seen this season is maybe not when we were going through the sticky period, when we were looking at the bench and we'd loads of players injured and there weren't many options that were appealing. But now we do have players that we know we can bring on, and they can change the game for us. And I even thought as well, if the game had gone into extra time, I could have seen a scenario where Palma maybe come on and maybe he was the hero at the end of such a topsy-turvy sort of season. But the goal came from two of the substitutes that we've brought on. We've brought on Bernardo, who to be fair to him, he squeezed in quite a lot in that small period of time that he was on the pitch. And we've brought on Ida, who has proved that he is more than capable.
He influences outcomes, Terry. He influences outcomes left, right, and centre. Ida, his contribution, I think, since he came in, cannot be understated. Pam, brilliant to have you on the bus. Apologies, Phil. It turns out it wasn't in the group chat when he'd said we'll move it to 5. It was just between me and him, so you weren't in the wrong.
No worries. Apologies. My subscription was behind as well, so I actually hadn't finished watching. When you messaged me, we're on. I'm like, I haven't finished watching.
Celtic hadn't scored yet. Do you know what I mean?
I was like,
how's the nerves, Pam?
Oh, shot.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I mean, it was literally a last-minute goal, 89 minutes. I'm just looking at my notes, and I just have Ida in all caps and then save our season in all caps underneath, because that's how I felt.
So that's you and Terry now taking notes during this, and I just come on and waffle.
Well,
honestly, I'll be out of job this time next year, Terry. I'm telling you, I'll be out of job.
I didn't take any of the day. There was very little to write down.
Because you're watching the Manchester Derby. What are you on about?
I was watching 2 games at once, wasn't
it? Yes, it was one of these games where I thought Celtic initially looked like they were going to get in their stride. The possession looked good, and then it was about finding the openings, finding a way to, sort of unlock the door, if you like. And then it kind of just got into the type of match I think that suited Rangers more in terms of the scrappiness. I thought that was whilst I thought the quality on the ball, I think Terry's right to point that out, still looked like it was us. The worse in terms of quality the game got, the more worried I got, because I just feel that plays more into their hands. Pat, the second half won't go down as one of Celtic's greatest displays of this season. It's not been one of those seasons, but I'm saying to Terry, the bigger picture is doubles don't come around often. I think the treble thing has become this customary Celtic, accomplishment that really was kind of really rare before. Really rare before. And now I think, the double can almost be underestimated, undervalued. Winning the double, and it's the big two cups, the League and the Scottish Cup, that is your flagship trophies. They're coming back home to paradise. It is, I think, overall mission accomplished in terms of this season. If we're not being too entitled as to just expect trebles as the norm, and if it's not a treble, it's a failure, which I think is maybe leaning towards lunacy almost. Like that can't be the expectancy of just a treble every year. It's the hope, it's the goal. But I think a double we can sit now and go, do you know what? For all the ups and downs this year, fucking hell, fair play.
Exactly. No, I think we could be very proud this season. Even though, look, it hasn't been a perfect season. It's definitely been very up and down. And I actually think that this game kind of represented it in that way. Like, we've got the job done, but it was nowhere near as, good as I had originally wanted it to be. I think nobody wanted it to be like this. But look, we got the job done, and, that's what matters. It's the result.
Yeah.
And, it just shows that we can't take these things for granted. I know I certainly felt into a little bit of complacency when we were just winning. I'm like, oh, this is the norm. We'll just show up. It'll be grand, get the job done. But now I'm like, it comes at a cost. And you know what? Some days it costs more than others, but the most important thing is that we get over the line and you appreciate it a little bit more, to be honest.
I get that. I think the level of appreciation now, Terry, for what the achievements maybe that we've already been loving over the past few years, maybe can get now looked at even more fondly, Terry. Do you know what I mean? You start going, this isn't always going to be as easy as, in fact, the years it looked easy, it wasn't as easy as what maybe Celtic had made it out to be. I think it's a hell of an achievement yet again, and an up and down season. It's felt like double. I'm happy, and I think we progress from here.
Bhoycie, I'm just watching the footage here on another window, so the Rangers players.
Me too.
The Rangers players.
Who lifted the cup for Man United?
Oh my god!
To collect their runners-up medals. That's got to be one of the hardest things. They should scrap that. You shouldn't have to go up and get your.
I'm watching Joe Hart lifting the trophy. I don't know.
Here's the thing, boys. About this one as well, and you could see the Rangers players there before they went up. Obviously, it's the last place they want to be right now, but in that dressing room, they'll be thinking, all right, do you know what? We've played against Celtic this year. We've kept the score close, but we know that they played much better than us in those league games. They'll be sitting there today going, Celtic did not play well at all, but they've still beaten us. And that's
Today was a hammer blow, Terry.
A hammer blow, as I keep saying, not just for today. It's a hammer blow for next season. That's
exactly. That's what I mean too. That's exactly what I mean as well. I think it leads on, Terry, now to a lot of doubt over the summer. A lot of questions we ask going, even at what could be perceived as Celtic nowhere near the best today, they still get the job done against us. Do you know what I mean, mate?
Yeah, and that's going to be the hard part for Rangers to take, because now this manager has to seriously be wondering, can he beat Celtic? Because he's had enough goes at it. He's tried.
Is that 5 games?
He's tried different things, yeah. And you know what? It was, we need this midfield. We need this midfield. He keeps changing the players. He keeps saying they're the ones they need. Again, we weren't great today, but they were very, very poor. They created absolutely nothing. Now, they got a goal, and we can touch probably on those key moments around the potential Celtic penalty, the Rangers goal that wasn't, and then obviously the goal that we got. But I would say there'd be a lot of head scratching, and this feeling that they've now got of losing the League Twos and now losing a cup final where they probably felt that they had a good opportunity to get their second bit of silverware. That's going to spill into the summer, and that's going to that's going to be hard for them to try and turn it around to go into the next season.
A couple of things to touch on there, Pam, that Terry's saying, and we'll come back to the blow-by-blow sort of like the bigger moments. But very quickly, what Terry's saying there, see in terms of if they think that was a golden opportunity for them, or they think they maybe had the upper hand today. I mean, see me actually think about levels. I think they were rotten as well. Like they weren't not an impressive side that we played against today, and yet they'll feel like that was probably the one that got away, if you like. See if that is the level they're sort of aspiring to, and there is a sort of feeling of, fuck, we thought we had them today. If you actually just, take the Celtic tinted glass or the green tinted glasses off you look at that as two football sides, and that's Rangers having a good day and Celtic having a bad day. I mean, I think their levels have really dropped, and I don't think they're aspiring to sort of achieve what we are as Celtic fans, and maybe why we get so hysterical when Celtic don't reach the sort of limit, the sort of levels we expect. I think their expectations have dropped subconsciously to all-time lows.
Yeah, I mean, I've been noticing that ever since our Morrow defeat, the 3-3, where they were clapping that. They were celebrating that. And I guess to the extent that they were celebrating that just made me actually believe, wow, something's happened, something shifted here. It's interesting to see because, we did not play well today. I will be the first to admit that. I was very disappointed. I actually nearly fell back to sleep this morning at certain points in the first half. But they were pretty bad. I think they were worse than us, to be honest. Even though I think they had more control of the game, it's because they smothered us more.
They wanted it to get scrappier, Pam, didn't they? They wanted it to be about the loose balls and trying to win your 50-50 battles. But what I'm getting at is, if that was a game that they feel got away from them and it was the one that got away, it tells you a wee bit about where they're at right now. And it ain't all that rosy for Philippe Clement and what he's got ahead of him, is it?
No, I mean, if you were expecting to go into a game playing like that, to be like, this is a game where we're going to cement our, how we win against you guys finally, then they're in deeper shite than I thought they were.
Yeah, Terry, it's not a blueprint, for want of a better term, for success, is it? When that type of game might be the one that they go, how did they manage that? We had them. But yeah, let's look at the big talking points. Obviously, in the first half, as you're right, Bhoycie, I thought Celtic looked like more the aggressors. I thought on the ball, we looked more confident. Celtic's a weird one. The more possession they get, the more nervy they get.
Yeah.
See, towards the end of the first half, you think they were getting more accustomed, they're getting more of a feel for the ball. Yet they look more dodgy towards the end of the first half. I don't get that. If I see Cameron Carter-Vickers and Scales pass the ball to each other one more time, I swear to God, I'm glad it's the summer now. So I can't bring this out. Watch that again.
Or passing it back to Joe Hart. The amount of pass backs, Jesus Christ.
It was at times like possession for possession's sake, I felt. I get where Terry's coming from, though, without the panic in the room either. It still was a wee bit of control that we had, I suppose. They then get their moment, Terry, set pieces. I mean, Tavernier, we should start putting a wall up when he takes corners because he was just shooting, wasn't he? Every time, Terry. And there was a couple of threats of it. Then they get that moment where the ball goes in the back of the net. I at first didn't think there was much in it, but I always gauge by the reaction, Terry, of a player. Joe Hart seemed far too assured this is getting disallowed. He was the way he was saying it as well was not a man straight reaching, clutching at straws. He looked pretty confident once they checked this because he knew what he'd felt in the back, and it was a two-handed push. Listen, was he getting the ball or not? It's irrelevant. You can't do that, in any area of the park, let alone right in front of the goal, which leads to it. It is the correct decision. We live in a VAR world. No, there's no harshness in that call whatsoever for me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously your heart sinks when the ball goes into the net, and you're hoping beyond hope. And I think today kind of what you haven't had in these games because of the no away supporters is you had a moment where half the ground were celebrating because they'd gone ahead, and then the other half of the ground were celebrating because they hadn't gone behind.
Yeah, such a better spectacle, by the way. On a side note, such a better spectacle.
Yeah, absolutely. But Joe Hart, I probably wasn't as confident as you when just because I think one of Joe's struggles in a Celtic jersey has been coming for cross balls. To me, all too often, he's come out like Superman and the ball has gone past him. And do you know what? The Rangers player, if he doesn't push him,
It's a gift, mate.
If he doesn't push him, there's every chance Joe Hart still goes past the ball.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting that ball, mate.
They score a legitimate goal, but it's a clear push. It's an absolute no-brainer. I think John Beaton he's no option but to call Nick Walsh across, and he's got no option. He's got no option because
prayers go out to John Beaton right now. By the way, he's got a family to go home to and friends, and wouldn't want to be him right now.
Yeah, but he's done his job on that one. Whereas I'm not certain he did his job in the incident prior to that in the first half. So probably just rewind on that one, Bhoycie. I don't think that's a penalty. I don't want that to be a penalty kick. The game of football I like, that's not a penalty. However, in Scottish football season 23-24, on all known evidence, John Beaton should be calling Nick Walsh across, because this is the same VAR official who called Don Robertson across. It was Don Robertson, wasn't it? To look at Tomoki Iwata's handball, which was absolutely nothing like that one today. So I don't get why that same referee doesn't call the referee over, why the VAR official doesn't call him over, because in Scottish football, that's what's been happening all season. I don't want it to be a penalty, but I was surprised that we didn't get a penalty out of that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, see with VAR, obviously what they do is they try to look at the stills, the sort of frames of everything as well. And I think, see, in real time, I was never, Pam, of the opinion that was a penalty. I genuinely thought, it's happened that quick. Yes, his arm's slightly out.
The reaction again, boys.
Then you see, yeah. But I think all players now, Terry, because of the impact VAR's had, I think naturally leads to that as well, to be completely honest. However, then you see the still frame, and for consistency, that is what they've often used to now make their mind up on these sort of decisions. There is a frame now going around of that photo. His arm is out. The way his wrist's actually angled, it looks like he's trying to catch it. Obviously, that's not the case. But when you look at where the contact's made and where his arm's outstretched to, that still frame, every other time or every other example we've got this season, would lead to the referee coming over and making a judgment call at the very least. It is surprising when you look now at these stills, Pam, that wasn't the case. See, to be totally honest, I thought at one point, oh, fuck, maybe the Scottish Cup doesn't have VAR. That's what I thought in the first half, because it hadn't even been mentioned. I thought, that's weird. Really weird. I generally, to be totally honest, me and Terry hark back to the old days too often. It isn't that, it's 2024. For me, that's not a penalty, right?
Yeah.
However, this season, if we're going to be consistent, we're going to be making consecutive decisions of the same sort of nature, I'm afraid that was, at the very least, a judgment call for the ref to review.
Yeah, I thought a lot just the ref judgments in general today were either just non-present or off. That was one of them. Another one of them was Todd Cantwell. I thought he should have got at least one more yellow card before he got one as he was being sent off. Today was just kind of like an eerie feeling in terms of ref and the calls. I just felt like I just wasn't on it for some reason. Yeah,
I think he set the tone with the... there was one where Dessers was sort of cut in and he deliberately left one on Hatate, no booking, and then the Cal Macklin about 5 minutes later, he does give the booking. I thought, shit, that's the first... Yeah. I thought he was maybe going, I'm going to be zen here first half. I'm going to be relaxed. And then that sort of inconsistency starts, and then you get called happy. Once the first one comes out, they do seem to then be far easier for the ref to keep reaching at the pocket, doesn't it?
Yeah. 11 yellows in that second half.
Yeah. That's not how it felt the first half hour. It looked like he was trying to let it go, Pammy.
It felt like definitely like two extremes on the spectrum. The first half was definitely far too lax, and the second half was just way too intense. So I think at one stage, I don't think all of our back four had yellow cards, but at least two of them did. I think AJ and Taylor had.
That's right. 2 fullbacks definitely does.
And I was like, oh my God. Like, what's happening? It's like I said, it's just two extremes. Yeah. And I was just like, I can't even follow this, to be honest.
On the penalty, Pam, what did you think?
I have to be honest with you, I missed it because my Celtic TV stream was acting up. And I was watching a watch along and people were going crazy. I'm like, what on earth is happening? So to be fully honest with you, I missed it. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Terry was watching the Manchester derby. You were watching a watch along.
I wasn't watching the Manchester derby. I was just making a point. Cup finals can turn out strange results.
That's why he's so relaxed. They nearly said Scott McTominay had a chance a minute ago.
Scott McTominay, apparently the commentator of the Celtic game said that Scott McTominay came off injured.
You're a pitch side, mate. You would know better than anyone. Anyway, I think on reflection that could have been a penalty. I think spot on. Initially, I didn't feel it, but when you look at the VAR, not getting involved, it seems very strange that the ref wasn't asked to sort of to come in. Is Terry frozen? Can you still hear me, Pam?
No, I can hear you.
He's there.
He's there. He's just. I thought musical statues in the top right. Is that today, Terry? Fair enough. Right. Next sort of instance, though, as I say, with the goal, it is the right call, Terry, isn't it?
Sorry, Bhoycie.
I don't know if you were at it or not. The disallowed goal, it's the right call, isn't it?
The disallowed goal, yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I'm not convinced Hart would have got it, but it's a definite push. Any Rangers fan who thinks that shouldn't have been given, I don't know. I don't think you've any argument when you see it. Very stupid for him to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Naivety, Pam, I think, on Raskin's part, isn't it? Because he's cost his team there. I think that goes anyway. I still think the way it played out, I think that happens whether he pushes Hart or doesn't. But if he doesn't push Hart, the goal stands. The fact he does is disallowed, and rightfully so.
Exactly. No, I agree. Like, I didn't see it at real time in first because I was focusing on Hart and kind of where he was. But I looked at the replay and I saw it and I thought, what an idiot. You didn't have to do that. I don't know if it's like a reflex thing or perhaps an emotional immaturity thing, but you just didn't have to do that. You could have, you just let the ball go in the net. Like, it just wasn't necessary. And I think, if I was a Rangers supporter, I'd be very frustrated.
I think we got away with one there because I still think that plays out as a goal, Pam, whether he pushes Joe Hart or not. I don't think we would have. I think everything else plays out the exact same. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things about it for me is it's another one of those goals that we have conceded far too many of this season, where just a high ball into our box causes us all sorts of problems, and that's something that we're going to have to address during the summer. Obviously not one for today, but we will be looking for a new goalkeeper. I hope beyond hope that we bring in a goalkeeper who really, really commands, if not his whole 18-yard box, at least his 6-yard box. Someone who comes, anything that's in that 6-yard box, comes, takes them, secure. Another centre-back who wins all the headers, wins all of his headers. We've got to try and find a way to stop leaking this same goal where any hopeful box into any hopeful high ball into our box has got a high percentage chance of the ball ending up in our net.
Yeah, totally. Then obviously the big decisive moment of the game occurs, and it is the two subs that you said, Terry, that were involved. The shot by Bernardo, Pam, I think they were very quick to give Butland a lot of the blame. I think with hindsight, you look at that strike from Bernardo, it's so deliberate what he's done. The way he's put the slice on that swerve, that movement isn't by luck, it is by absolute design. Yeah. And, well, the only thing you could criticise Rangers for really wouldn't be the goalkeeper for me. I think the movement it's had's caught him unawares, but they're all on their heels. Not one of them reacts. He does not exactly in a foot race with Balogun or anyone like that. He's on his own. He's the only one who's followed that shot through. No one else has even thought about the danger. That, to me, would be my criticism from a Rangers perspective. From ours, I think the shot by Bernardo was what we needed to do maybe earlier in the game.
Yeah.
But the way he's hit that ball, it's Nakamura-esque. The swerve, everything about that is deliberate. As I say, it's totally by design, not by luck. And you've got a proper instinct instinctive movement by a striker who those sort of goals to me are what defines what a number 9 should look like when they're already doing that. Is like, that's not, you can't train that really. That's just that's what they do. And a massive moment. Ida dictating outcomes again, but just a thought on the shot itself. I think the narrative about it being all, Butland's error, I think doesn't do justice to the effort from Bernardo.
No, Bernardo, that shot actually reminded me of something Kyogo would have scored last season. It was calculated. He knew what he was doing. He could see the shot happening, and he just went for it. I think he was unlucky, and that was my first. I was like, "Oh my god, that was very unlucky." But then Ida, he spotted the rebound, boom, in, and it was great. But yeah, I thought also it was very interesting that it was the 2 loans that actually got up and did it.
That might be the last time that could be the last time we see both of those guys in the Celtic shirt.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, what a way to leave. If you're gonna leave, get the job done that the permanent players.
Well, we know how recency bias works. It's certainly going to lead to many a debate, I think, Terry, over the next couple of weeks on the bus as to do you stick or twist with both? And I think people will obviously reflect on cup finals and outcomes being dictated by both, and it will curry favour in the support. I've got no doubt about that. Bernardo's shot's class, mate. And I think it was about time we started testing the goalkeeper. And by the way, I think he's a good goalkeeper. It's not because I think it's a weakness in them, but sometimes you can't always just... That extra pass at times can be quite frustrating when you watch Celtic. I think at times the perfect goal isn't always the right goal. Sometimes there's other ways to score, and you've got to ask questions first and foremost. That wee bit more directness. Bernardo did it. It's a brilliant strike. It has completely baffled Butland. And see when you see the late movement that ball makes, you can actually get it. You see why. I would give him a bit more of a pass, I think, on that with hindsight. But the defending from them, just everyone asleep at the wheel. Ida doesn't know that's the type of shot that Bernardo's about to hit. He just follows the principle of, I follow in the shot. That is so important, mate, those sort of instincts in a striker.
He's on his toes. He's the only person that's reacting. The thing about Bernardo, if you don't shoot, you can't score. And I think too often today we were guilty of taking an extra touch whenever we could possibly have got a shot away. There's one where Forrest cut in and he just kept taking an extra touch. And I'm thinking, James, do you know what? You could have pulled the trigger there. You never know. If you don't have a pop, you don't know. And the Rangers fans will probably be kicking the barriers down later again to blaming Butland for everything. I mean, he's had a great season for them, and
I think goals literally getting replayed right now, Terry. I swear their 2 centre backs are on their heels.
Aye, yeah. There's only one person. There's only one person reacts, and he was in so much space, Bhoycie. He was in so much space that I just naturally assumed he must be offside. He must be offside. You're just waiting, but then you watch. It's like when you watch the celebration. The player just looks back, and you're thinking, right, if he doesn't stop smiling in the next second, I know it's a goal. But
he's not. But you just said he reacted, mate. He didn't. He's not reacted, and he's following the action that's happening. He's in time with what's happening in the game. Because that shot gets taken, Terry. He's following it through no matter what. I think it's the Rangers defenders then go, oh, shit, it's been parried. But really, they should be following through, expecting all sort of outcomes. Do you know what I mean? Rather than, they both look so on their heels, so slow, so ponderous. And instinctive movements like that, decisive movements. And again, Terry, I'll say it, Ida dictating outcomes, Terry. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I more than anybody need to hold my hands up. I gave him a hard time the first couple of games that he appeared for us. He's made differences, Bhoycie, at key moments in this season. Away to Motherwell, away to Hibs, and in the Scottish Cup final, he's definitely made a telling contribution. And it obviously remains to be seen whether today is his last contribution or whether there's more contributions to come from him in the future. Again, same thing with Bernardo. It's probably one of those ones. During that sort of purple patch that he had, I was thinking, yeah, do you know what? I would take him. Then he's fallen away. I don't know. I think that any move for him probably hinges around O'Reilly, but then I don't even think he's a natural replacement for O'Reilly. I look forward to the summer, boys, and I know that's kind of the match is finished, and I'm going to drop off now and leave you and Pam to it. But I definitely want to come on to some of the shows during the summer. I know we talk about it all the time. But this is going to be an interesting summer because I do think the manager will be afforded some level of indulgence in the transfer market. I think he will.
They're running out of hiding places now with the financial sort of disparity.
It's hard to hide 120 million, isn't it? But I think the thing about it is there's definitely, well, there were spots in that team that needed improved last season, but they're just so glaring now that something you cannot go through another window without addressing the clear and obvious
deficiencies that we've got
in that squad. Bhoycie, I'm going to drop off. Pam, I'm going to drop off because I need to go and sort these kids out. But enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
I thought this was the last time I'd see you the first day of next season, but you're coming on in the summer. So
I'll come on. I'll come on for some of the chit chat. I know Phil was talking about doing some of the Scotland games and stuff, and I'd still be up for that because I don't passionately support Republic of Ireland, and I never really, obviously, living over here, I never felt any strong allegiance to either of the two teams, and I just really watched any international games where Celtic players were playing, and that's probably what my Euros will look like.
It's just any games you watch, mate.
Right, I'm away. See you later.
See you later, Terry. Cheers, mate.
Yeah.
Pam, I think Terry's got a point. I mean, the deficiency in the side, whilst they might have been, again, at times today, I felt a wee bit obvious in terms of left-sided defence. I think I've never been on this bandwagon of criticising Taylor each week, blah, blah, blah. In fact, I very rarely mention Greg Taylor on the channel. Today, he was irritating me. But I don't think today's the day to go through the deficiencies in the side. What we can look at, though, is with someone like Joe Hart departs, he's part of the psyche of Celtic right now in terms of that winning mentality, that assurance, that calmness that he brings, that influence. That dropping out for me is one of your sort of key mentality sort of monsters, as they say these days. You know, he is one of the sort of leaders of the pack. That dropping out is a miss because I do think experience is crucial. And I think today our experience of getting over the line really shone through, and it's how we ended up getting the win.
Exactly. When you have that experience and when you have that presence, you create that resilience because you have that experience with you. And I think ultimately that's what got us through. It was not cracking when they scored and they had their goal disallowed. It wasn't cracking. It was still keeping with that same pace. But then, you had that extra impact from Bernardo and Ida. But when you have somebody that's as influential as Joe Hart, that contributes so much to how you just keep going, like that resilience I keep saying.
Exactly.
So that's going to be a huge hole to fill over the summer.
Yeah,
it really is. And I wouldn't know how we go about replacing him, to be honest.
I wonder if we don't look to try and find Joe Hart when we're looking for the replacement. I think you need to accept that maybe it's time for them, like a Cameron Carter-Vickers, to become one of the 26, 27 in his fourth season at Celtic.
Yeah.
He then needs to take the mantle of now being part of the leadership groups. You get all that sort of thing now in modern day football. And I just think the resilience, the keeping your cool when maybe it's not going as plain sailing as you'd hope is so influential on guys that maybe because they are younger, and we talk about generations on here all the time as fans. I mean, think of these guys as players. It's only human nature for them to start flapping at times,
Exactly.
But we're looking at the nucleus of the squad now into sort of season 3, season 4 now. And if you can keep the vast majority of them together, I think we will lose O'Reilly, and we get the reasons why. But other than that, if we can keep the rest of that core together, get a proper replacement for Joe Hart, I mean as a goalkeeper, not as that influential character, and then put the onus on someone who's now been part of the group 3-4 years now to step up and fill that void, football ability aside, and start being that big character, that calming influence, that reassurance that the younger guys need. I'm all for that. Today, I think you do learn about two sides. One who knows how to handle the heat in the kitchen, and the other one that runs out the first time the smoke alarm goes off.
Exactly. And like how you mentioned CCV as well, I think he could be a good candidate. I believe he has worn the captain's armband on a few occasions as well this season. I think he works very well with the other people in the back. I remember he worked very well at Starfield last season, and I think he's been working with Scales to build his confidence. I definitely see a big difference in Scales' confidence from the beginning of this season to even just a few matches ago.
Yeah.
I think there is something kind of nurturing about that. He knows kind of how to take players in and sort of act as a mentor almost. I think he could step into that role as well.
Yeah, definitely. Cameron Carter-Vickers, we've seen Celtic's upturning sort of performances and, results essentially. When it mattered, we've got the results that were required to win the league title. We've got the result today. It isn't that much of a coincidence when you look at it's the first run Cameron Carter-Vickers has had fully fit. Yes, he's been brought in at earlier stages in the season. Has he really been in full flow at any point in time? I don't think so.
No.
I think the difference has been 10, 11 starts in a row, and you've seen, you're absolutely right, the influence he has from a playing perspective. I'm sure he gives other guys confidence around him. He'll be the next one, I think, to step into the shoes of Joe Hart in the influential terms. But notwithstanding that, I do feel, catchphrase. I do think
you're aware, don't worry.
Here we go. But I do think when you look at the two sides, there is a wee bit of know-how about Celtic. And I think that also the manager as well. All he knows is sort of getting over the line in these situations too. I think when you've seen Clement, by the way, who was right in the instance he was talking about in terms of the foul that was given against him, he was actually right. But it's because he loses his cool at the side. Don't always think it's a great look. And he's having to get sort of a big talking to by the ref, and he was nearly going to get himself sent off. And you never really get that from Rodgers. And these guys who've been over the line time and time again, the more they do it, the more it becomes a bigger factor. And I think we do see between the two sides that there is a real belief and know-how about us, and they don't have that. And yet again, they'll go to rebuild this summer. But yet again, that'll mean new faces to a party that again have no experience of getting over the line in Scotland either. So it's kind of like Groundhog Day for them.
Yeah.
Whereas for us, you keep the core of the squad together. We accept we lose Joe Hart. We're probably on the side of Matt O'Reilly's likely to leave. Yeah. Keep the rest. And if you're going to retain one of the lone players, if not both, they now have that experience of getting over the line as well, once or twice. So these things all benefit the squad in the long haul. That's why it's so important to have experienced pros as well as that mix of youth, energy, vibrance. I get all that. Sometimes you need that know-how. That I've been around this block before, and it tends to be successful. Stick with it.
Exactly. I mean, they have the winner's mentality, and a key component of such is that you don't crack under pressure. You don't let your emotions get the best of you when you're under a bit of stress. You're saying how Brendan Rodgers, he doesn't exactly go up to the line. He's not exactly the most passionate manager. Neither was Ange. And he's delivered us some great seasons. It's just, I think it's to do with just how you can focus on the big picture, which is winning. And you don't let these little things completely derail you. As so is in life as well, in fairness.
Of course. And I think maybe when you look at the recruitment as well, where Brendan's kind of not being open as it's got to like sort of business end of the season, using the 8 players, because the lone defender, whatever his name was, Zach, whatever his fucking name.
Nat Phillips, he shall not be
named. Nat Phillips is Zach, what am I talking about? But he obviously left after his 5 month year.
Yeah.
But the other 8 haven't been the ones Rodgers went to. And I think that shows the pitfalls when it's constant projects, that when it came to the crunch, he went for the experience. Yeah. He went for that know-how that we're speaking of. And I think sometimes the model can't be just so binary as we sign young players in, we sell them on for profit. The ones that don't make it haven't came at a big cost, so they fall by the wayside. I think sometimes you need to bring in someone who's maybe been there, seen it, done it, maybe in a different league, but has that experience and can actually be a guy that, I think Joe Hart had that, to be honest. When he walked in, they go, fucking hell, it's Joe Hart. 75 caps. Like, it's a bit of a big deal. And I think sometimes that is so important, not always to be worried about what you could sell them on for in a few years, but the here and now. Exactly. That sprinkled along with the sort of model that has served as well, I think is a better mix and a better balance. And it wasn't that, I think, this season. It was too much of the project players, and the proof was in the pudding. They weren't the guys that got us over the line.
Yeah. Young, new, and cheap. That was probably the 3-word motto they had. Young, new, and cheap, then Salomon. And you're correct. We do need a balance. Because, while it is a business and you have to have the business mind, so yeah, keeping your costs low, that's great, whatever. But we're also a football club that has to win. And in order to win, you need to have the experience and you need to have the talent that's available right there, not just talent that's up and coming. So there
needs to be some sporting decisions, Pam, as well as business ones.
Oh, I'd go even further. I'd say go back to the drawing board and reevaluate how you're approaching, transfer seasons, and be like, look, we need to chop and change a lot. And I hope Brendan does stand up to them and say, look, this is what I need. Yeah.
The good thing I think for Brendan as well now is it's evidence-based. He can go look at the season, how it was up and down, etc., and look who were the guys that got us over the line. It wasn't the guys you picked, for me last summer. It was the ones I had a say in, or the ones that I knew I could count on that were already in the door. I think that's then evidence-based and on the back of success and with the financial rewards winning the league this season brings. He's got a strong case now to sort of, rightfully as you say, change the dynamic of how Celtic approach transfer windows.
Honestly, he could show them every game from December and January, and that should be more than enough evidence that something has to change.
Yeah, I actually do. In my opinion, I think you show them the last month of the season and go, look what we used to get things done. Yes. And it wasn't what you provided.
It
wasn't what you provided me with.
That has the experience and the know-it-all as well to get the job done. Because that's ultimately to be the first aim, get the job done. Then once you can get the job done, then go into ventures of making more and more profit. That's when you can start to venture into, buying cheap, selling big. But that can't be your priority. And I think with the board, that is their priority. And it's just, look, we won this season. We had a good season this season. But if you keep going, it's not going to stay like that, to be honest. So.
Well, no, I agree with you. And I think.
Yeah, sorry, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just venting.
No, it's fine. I think, but the good thing is Brendan had the sort of ruthless approach eventually when it mattered to go, right, I can't keep trying to see if these guys are going to be able to do it. I'm going to go for what I think my gut tells me is going to get us over the line. And he was proven right. It wasn't, as Ian Matheson comes in, great to have you in the bus, it maybe wasn't our best performance today, but we won, which is excellent. The You'll Never Walk Alone at the end, superb. Compared to winning it last year, it feels we're in a better place. I think we all knew, when you look at that cup final last year, it was a abysmal display, to be honest with you, against a lower league side in a final. It wasn't great. And there was a lot of uncertainty because there was a feeling amongst many of us that, and just probably for the off, some were in denial about it, but that still leads to uncertainty either way. Whereas now we know it's going to be built from the guys in the dugout right now, he'll be in situ next year. The core of the team, he's kind of, I think, nailed his colours to the mast now and decided that's who I want to be my go-to guys from the squad that's currently here. I now want to improve on that first team. Yeah. It is a more exciting summer, I think, in terms of that, albeit, as I say, I thought it was going to be a big radical summer last year and it didn't happen. Yeah. But this one is based not on a new start. This one's now based on foundations. And it is time we build from a position of strength.
Yeah. It's definitely the era of continuation rather than radical change. Because I felt that feeling of radical change last summer too. Thank you. And it's definitely continuation. I think it's taken us most of the season to finally figure out what our best foundation is, which, I have my thoughts on. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, but look, it's the way it is. But now we can continue to build on it. We know it works for us. Hopefully the board knows to actually back Brendan this time instead of just throw him a load of, young, cheap, and experienced players and be like, okay, let's hope this works. And if it does, it's because we're geniuses and not because it's luck.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Hopefully there's a different attitude this summer and we can just continue And Brendan can continue to kind of clamp down and be like, this is what I know works. And look, it has worked. So trust me on this.
Exactly. No, I think you're spot on. And we obviously, before we go, I mean, from the other perspective, it is now a summer of doom. I know they'll win the preseason cup, they always do. But in terms of where they're at right now, it must be a level of despair we can't even relate to. Doom, gloom. Where is the hope?
Yeah.
Currently not a good enough side against what they're probably saying amongst themselves is a shitey Celtic side. I can imagine that would be their narrative from that side of it. So probably makes it worse, probably compounds it right now. And where they go from here, another rebuild, another summer of whatever player they sign is going to be the next messiah and going to take them to the next level. But they'll now know the more summers this happens, it starts becoming hope as opposed to belief that the guys they're actually bringing in are really going to be of that level, because consistently they're not what they're made out to be when they first join. Not just that, obviously there's a financial gulf that is expanding in front of your eyes, albeit they still have an opportunity to qualify for the Champions League if they navigate what is an extremely tricky sort of playoff route it is. And I wouldn't, be overly critical if they didn't manage it, and they probably know that themselves. It's where they go from here. They must feel now that this season was a bit of a game changer in terms of it was an opportunity for them when we had a sticky period. They couldn't capitalise, and with that being the last season for we don't know how long, hopefully not too long, of the guaranteed Champions League group access when you win the league, that I think is a real killer blow. And you wouldn't want to be in their shoes this summer now.
No, I most certainly do not. Yesterday I was just looking
at... Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yesterday I was just looking at the history of the derbies we've had this season. And, I said this to my dad from the very beginning of the season. If they want to win, they can win while we're weak. But if they want to win, they have to beat us. They've now had 5 attempts to beat us, I believe, this season. They have not. That alone would kind of put me into a bit of a despair. But I don't know how I would approach this summer. I would certainly be asking a lot of questions about what do we do now? Because I've already been through several more than one rebuild. How many more
it's every summer
to go through?
Yep.
That's the question to be asking. How many more times do you have to go through this until we strike the jackpot ultimately?
And I think as well, as I say, when you've got all these feelings, but I'm sure their take on it is this isn't a great Celtic side. This was a Celtic side there for the taking.
Exactly.
That makes it that double downs on it, for wanting to use the word double. That is going to be the hardship. But guess what? That ain't our problem. Today is about celebration. It's another double, another trophy in the bank, a sensational end outcome this season where we didn't all think it was going to be this. Even today, there was probably plenty doubt in the air over the 90 minutes, but we have done it. We have done the biz, and that is what matters. We will be back Monday. Hopefully we'll be back on camera by then. Pam, brilliant to have you on. We really appreciate your contribution. Great to have Terry on earlier as well. All those in the live chat. Enjoy your weekend. We got the job done. And, it could be any weekend for me, but especially this one. Make mine a double. See you later.